Hello. Good morning, traders. Today is Tuesday, July 6th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream. All right, guys. Well, I want to start zoomed out slightly here so that we can look at Friday's price action. As we can see, Friday, the market pushed higher all day long, trending up. It created a triple distribution, leaving behind two sets of single prints. We ended the day with value higher. And then we have spent the subsequent sort of overnight and yesterday's partial day trade balancing at higher prices. Okay. So that sets us up for several scenarios here this morning. First off, we want to remember we're opening inside. We're going to consider Friday, the previous day's range. We'll ignore this little bit from yesterday. So we're opening inside of yesterday's range, inside of Friday's range. Okay, that increases the odds that the market will just need to chop early this morning. If you combined the fact that we're right inside this node of volume where the market traded, inside the value area, it increases the odds a bit more. Okay, so the market is likely to need to just chop for the first half an hour or so this morning and grind up and down whilst it figures out where it wants to go. As far as upside and downside potential, I don't know this morning. I'm coming in completely flat, completely 50-50. We have created just a million single prints and weak references and poor references below us for the last 2 weeks. We've just been pushing higher and higher and higher on top of weakness. So that tells me, both in the short term, that there is likely to be a pullback in the market, but also that if there is a pullback, it could cause a much larger correction in the market. Okay, so that data is keeping that in my mind, that the market is very, very highly set up for a pullback, but I'm not going to let it bias me, right? On Friday, I let my fear of the market pulling back bias me from getting some good longs in here that I probably would have otherwise taken. So I don't want to take away those opportunities from myself this week. So if these momentum traders can stay in charge of this market, I will go with the long trade. I will go with the momentum and let them push it as far as they can. Okay. As far as a pullback, what we're looking for this morning, obviously once the market opens and it starts to grind, on the downside, you've got all these weak references. So the repair of these two weak references could lead to support, and then the market pushes up, or coming down to the base of the single prints at either one of these and then finding support at that base could also cause the market to push up. And then we're looking for the breakout above yesterday's high, right? So the market pushes above yesterday's high, which is at 43.47, comes back down, finds support. As it's finding support, that is the long trade for continuation to the upside. Okay? If these weak references do not hold as support once they're repaired, then look for further downside continuation. Okay? That is how I'm looking at the market this morning. Also worth, I thought, just for a second, stepping back and looking at the regular candlesticks on the daily. So this is the ES on the daily. And one thing you can notice is when you get excess, right? We had this balancing area here where the market was balancing. Then we got this excess to the upside. We tried to balance off that excess using time. Look, we spent all these days, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days trying to balance off with time, but then we looked above and failed, and that caused the market to pull all the way back down, okay, using price to rebalance, finding support at that 50 moving average. So this is the exact same scenario we're setting ourselves up for now, right? Look at the excess here, and then look at the excess here. It's very similar, right? So it can just keep going. It can flatten out, or it can pull back for that larger pullback. And that's what I'm just staying keenly aware of that over the next few days. What is the market doing? Okay. So the market is open. We did open inside yesterday's range. So now we are looking at the chop. Okay. So once again, to the upside, we're looking to get above Friday's high, come back down and find support. That's a long trade. Or if the market sells down to any of these weak references, finds support there, that's a long trade as well. Okay. also potentially shortable if the overnight low fails. So if we come down here, we repair this weak I period low left behind from Friday, and we're not finding support, it's a good short from there down to the base of the single prints in the G period, and then you monitor for continuation. If that doesn't find support, you check for the base of single prints in the E period. If that doesn't have support, you stay in the short as far down as it needs to pull back. Okay? But there's just no way to know right now what's going to happen yet. Good morning, Israel. Morno to you. RK Leon, good morning. Naif is here. Good to see you. Good morning. Arthur is here. Ricky Bobby, good morning to you. Miles is here. Good to see you. John is with us. Good morning. Gianfranco, good to see you. Chris is back. Good morning to you. Nirmal is here. Good to see you as well. RK is back. Marco. Design Knob is here. Jose, good to see you. Marco, I can't answer this question for you about Jim Dalton. Seems to put YZ in the market profile. I don't know what you mean by that. Good morning to you, Stanley. Nick, good to see you. Welcome. Kim back with us. Good morning. I did have a good fourth. Thank you. Pavel is here. Good to see you. And Mudra, good morning. All right, so let's watch this market chop away here early in the morning. Remember, we could potentially find support on that 20 moving average, which is just below us here. Internals are starting to kind of push down, a little bearish. But as always, we expect chop early when we open inside the previous day's range. Ollie G, welcome to the family. Welcome to the group of subs. Happy to have you. All right, so we're down here trying to repair the first week reference. We did push through that 20 moving average, which is a little bit bearish to see. So if we don't, after the repair of the first week reference, if it doesn't seem like the market is finding support here, look to repair the second week reference. Same story there. No support. You can short it for a push down to the base of the single prints in the G period. Reason being that the overnight low here found its support just below this node of volume from Friday afternoon. So likely if that can't hold, the market will need to pull back and repair some more of this weakness. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Marco. Yeah, I have that too. It's just mine shows over here in the overnight. So my last period would be K period, J and K. But yeah, it's showing right up until 6:30 when the market opens. Good morning, Phoenix. Good to see you. Morning, Rob. Okay, so that first week reference didn't hold. Or sorry, it got repaired. So now we're looking for support. Okay, internals remain bearish here. Okay, second week reference repaired. No sign of support yet. So we're heading down to the base of those single prints. 4333. We'll look for support there. Mizu, yeah, I do track the weak references created by the profile intraday, and I do carry them forward. The way I look at weak references in terms of are they indefinite, um, weak references are two things. One, they're just a sign of who's participating in the market that day. If you create lots of weak references, it's a sign that it's more short-term players than long-term players. So that's just one piece of information that I add to my narrative. Okay. And then the other thing is they usually need to be repaired. Okay, so ignore the base of the single prints. Those are slightly different. But like this weak I period low, and then you got the weak G and H period lows down here. If there was just one, I would almost ignore it. Like just one weak reference means nothing. You can leave that behind and never come back. But because you have three of them, it increases the odds that the market needs to come back. Right? So the way I think about weak references is one weak reference doesn't mean much, but when you have a lot of them, it really starts to matter. And because I've been tracking them over the last few weeks, as I zoom out here, you'll see we've had just an insane amount of weak references that we've left below. So I would describe that as an insanely high probability that at some point the market will need to pull back. Of course, we don't know when it's going to happen. And what I was talking about this morning was I don't want to miss opportunities to the long side because I'm scared that the market's going to pull back. I'd rather continue to trade long with the momentum and then trade short when the pullback happens, right? So that is what I'm watching here today. Okay, market looks like it's starting to build some support above the single prints. I still think probability is that we'll need to come down to the base before putting in good support. But if I'm wrong in a when what should happens would be very bullish. Okay. It's something that I'll think about, Mizu. It's a little bit of extra work for me each day. And I find people keep throwing out these ideas like, hey, why don't you just do this for us? Why don't you just do that? Why don't you do... And all of a sudden it's like, oh, I have an extra hour of work every day making all these little extra references for people. So I generally say no to those type of things, but I'll consider it. But keep in mind during my, like, you can pop onto my live streams anytime, right? You could go look at an old live stream from Friday right now, and you would see at the end of the day on Friday all the week references that I left behind and stuff. Um, so yeah, you can open up an old live stream and just scan all the way to the end, like the previous day or the previous whatever session, and just scan right to the end, and you'll see at the very end of every day I go in and mark all my levels. Okay, so once again, the market finding some support here. Well, there you go. For those of you in the Discord, hit up Pugpack's post. Say that 5 times fast. Okay, so we are now pushing back up into that 50 moving average. It's pretty common once you push through it to the downside that it acts as resistance to the upside. So let's see if that happens here. If not, if the market just pushes right through it once again, that increases the odds of a rotational day. Whereas if it finds resistance here and starts to push down again, that could be the sign that today will be a downtrending day. Thank you for the compliment. No, no background doing voiceover stuff. I used to work as an editor at a TV network, and I had to do a lot of voiceover recording temp just to build my edits out. Um, but anyway, nope, just a good talker. Thank you. Chit, don't call it rapping. I definitely don't rap. Good morning, Herman. Good to see you. Okay, so the market is trying to build support right in here around this 36 level, where the overnight on, I guess it was Saturday night, they Sunday night actually. Yeah, so Sunday night's trade. So this little node of volume that they built right here, we're trying to find support in there. But I would just say, keep in mind, if this doesn't hold, literally this level that we're building at right now, if this doesn't hold, there's no support between here and the base of these single prints in the G period. And then if that doesn't hold as support, there's very little to hold up the market above this E period single prints. So if this little node that's holding us up right now is working so hard to keep the market held up here, if it breaks, we're likely to go down and start backfilling these single prints. Certainly the G period, if not, then also the E period. And keep in mind that the market bouncing perfectly off that 20 moving average is often a sign that it is beginning to trend down. Okay? So internals are starting to trend down. The candlesticks are starting to trend down. We print the B period in 5 minutes, and we're very, very close, the lower end of the A period. So slowly but surely, this market is stacking up signals to me, market-generated signals, that it needs to pull back here. And all that's holding us up is just this one little node of volume. So I'm keeping a close eye on that. If this does hold by some magic and the market starts to push higher and this is the low for this morning, that would be extremely bullish in a when what should happen doesn't. But I don't think that's the case here this morning. John, do you mean 10 a.m. my time? No, there's nothing wrong with that. That's you're missing most of the trading day, but nothing wrong with it. Just wait for the opportunities. When you know what the market's doing, participate. Okay, the B period creating a poor low here. The market very commonly pushes away from a poor low and then comes back to repair it. So if we don't get much of a push away and it just immediately repairs it, that is slightly more bearish. Okay, so one tick, it's still poor. We need one more tick to repair it. That will also begin the one time framing lower, which is another bearish signal. Okay, so we are now one time framing lower, which is bearish. But there is still potential for the market to find support in here, right? We're still inside of yesterday's value area. So the market just hasn't found support yet, but it could here at the base of the single prints at 4333. If not, at the base of the single prints at 432750. So I put up the sign here that I'm feeling bearish, but keep in mind, as long as the value area is inside of yesterday's, we could find support anywhere in here and then start pushing higher again. So I'm bearish, looking for short trades, or I'm in a short trade, but I'm ready for the market to find support if it does. Okay, I don't necessarily think this means we have to have the bigger market correction just yet. Volume and tempo, no, nothing that jumps out at me right now. I'm making note of the fact that we aren't getting any like really emotional selling here. There's no real panic in this just yet. John, yeah, on your idea of waiting for the first 2 hours, I think that's brilliant. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. The only exception that I would make is that like some days the best opportunities are right at the open. Um, for example, a day like Friday where you get the market gapped higher and then it had an immediate gap and go. Like if you got into a long trade in the first half an hour of the day, look at all this beautiful profits you could make. Whereas if you waited until the C period, actually, yeah, you still could have done really well for yourself. Okay. So yeah, just something to think about. There are some days where the opportunities present themselves first thing in the morning, but most days it's better to wait. Which broker do I use? Well, I don't officially endorse any brokers, but I use AMP Futures. Exactly, design up. All those times people tell us they've figured out a strategy for watching NQ and taking trades on the ES or vice versa. Those people getting crushed today. Yeah, Marco, I would agree with that. That is a Jim Dalton trade right there, buying the base of the single prints for a bounce, and then you see what happens, right? Does it bounce off of there and then start to march its way back higher, or does it bounce off and then immediately start to push lower, and then you just take your profits real quick? I think that's a great trade. As far as overall bullishness, bearishness of the market, um, again, don't let yourself be distracted by the NQ. The market is bearish this morning. You know, this is not good taper on the low here. $5,000 contracts to 1,000 to 300. That is not good taper on the low, so it's likely to need to push lower once more. You've started the trend lower. You're pulling value slowly but surely lower, right? So whilst the market may very well find support here at 43.2750, right now it's signaling that it at very least needs to go down to that level. And so I'll wait and decide once it gets there what I think it's going to do next. But for the moment, that seems the highest probability move. One should think if the NQ can keep trending higher, that it will create support for the ES. Let's take a look at the NQ on the profile. Oh, man. The Q is strong. The Q is strong. Okay. So it looks like they had a gap from Friday that remains unfilled. So you've got a gap and go scenario here. The market barely traded down at all and then pushed higher. You got good taper on the low. And you're one time framing higher. So this is literally the exact opposite of the ES. So interesting. But this is bullish. This market is straight up bullish. While this one is straight up bearish. All right, guys, if anybody got short the market targeting those single prints to the downside, please smash that like button. Show some love for the streamer. You push the thumbs up, both our lives get better instantly. Okay, so now that we got down to the base of those single prints, they are repaired. And so we're looking, can the market start to build support in here? Okay, ticks starting to work their way back above the zero line a little tiny bit. It's a good first sign. So essentially, as far as I can see here, come on, just waiting on my pen tool. There we go. This should act as support, this node of volume from Friday. If it fails, look for further downside continuation. Okay. Otherwise, keep in mind, if you do find support in here, okay, you got lots of single prints above you, lots of levels that need to be backfilled, so the market can turn around and start going up. It's got a long way to go. But obviously wait for that support first. Don't go long blindly, as the market is still trending down. Okay, so yeah, on the questions of will that base hold, again, I don't know. You never know if a base of single prints is going to hold. Um, you just have to wait and see when you get there. You just never know. It's the game of trying to know for sure what the market is going to do before it does it will just drive you crazy. It's so much easier. Please take my advice. It's so much easier to just watch what the market is doing and go along with that. So what that means is, of course, you ask yourself ahead of time, will those single prints hold? But you don't need them to hold. You don't care if they hold or not. You're in your short, you take profits there, which is what I just did. I took profits right at the base of the single print on a short from all the way up here around the open. Okay. And now I'm just watching what the market does. I don't need to be long or short. I can just wait and see how it reacts to getting into this node of volume, how it reacts to that single print. So we found no support at the base of that single print, which is bearish. Okay, so now we're falling into this node of volume. If we can't find support in here, then I would assume further downside continuation. But I'm happy to get out of the trade here and get back in here, right, to take the risk off the table of staying short in here in case it finds support. So just always try to work on creating a system for yourself where the way you trade, it doesn't matter what the market does. You have a plan for everything. You have a plan if you find support. You have a plan if you don't. And then it doesn't matter what happens. You're just waiting and watching and seeing what it does. As far as the question of could we find support here and then reverse back up, 100%. We definitely could. Was there any relevance to the fact that the base of the single prints and the value area were right next to each other? No, not in my mind. Just a coincidence. Okay, we're starting to put in some volume right at the top of this node. That's a good sign that we might find support in here. Internals still trending down. Um, yeah, as far as like being able to tell if support and resistance is holding, it's a very like nuanced thing. People ask me every day to tell them how I know. I just kind of know. It's like you've just after you've watched a thing happen a million times, you just kind of know. You know, just like your mom can put the spoon in the bowl of soup and take a sip, and she can just tell if it's ready or not, or if it needs more salt, or if it blah blah blah, because she's cooked the soup a million times. It's the same thing. I've just sat and watched the market find support so many times. I just kind of can tell. But of course, what I'm looking at is volume, tempo, trend, um, internals, everything. You know, it's not any one thing. It's how everything lines up together. And honestly, at this point, this is 50-50 to me. I can see it being support. I can also see it failing and the market selling off further. The thing that caught my eye at the very beginning, though, was just where you see the taper happening here and then where you see the taper happening here, right? It's the exact same level. So that's just a sign that this node is absorbing this pullback. Very nuanced. Don't worry about it if you're new to profile. Now you want a bowl of soup? You and me both, brother. How did I know to go short at the open? I didn't go short quite at the open. I went probably like 20 minutes into the day. I was just watching the way it was grinding. I could just tell with the weak references below. We had 4 weak references below, and nothing really above except for that one overnight high. So I just felt like the magnet was pulling the market lower, so I got short and then monitored for continuation, right? I just kept my stop kind of above each little node of volume as it pushed below. And I just let the market keep pulling my order lower and lower. And then after we broke through the single prints right here in the G period, I just added to it because we didn't find any support there. Like we just pushed right through it. And if the market had buyers ready to step in, that's where they would have stepped in. So the fact that they didn't step in there made me add to my short and just put my target right there at the base of those single prints and waited for it. It's a matter of measuring buyers and sellers. So far in this market this morning, there's more sellers. But the buyers are starting to step in. So let's see what happens. Let's see if they can get the ticks above the 0 line here. Can they change the trend in these other 2 internals, the breadth and the advancers versus decliners? Can we start to get some little green candlesticks in here? That would be the sign of buyers stepping in, right? Getting above the 0 line and starting to turn these green. Well, Charles, what does it mean if price is going higher, but we're not getting those higher ticks and those reversals in the internals? Well, then it's just old business, right? It's just people who went short taking profits. That's what's pushing price higher. But the trend remains intact down. So for that trend to come to an end, for good support to be found, we really need to see these ticks get above 0 and these candles turn green. Okay. Printing the C period here, we've left a bunch of single prints behind in the B period. These are likely to get backfilled the same way we just went and backfilled the ones from yesterday to the upside. Oh boy, I just realized it's 7:30. It's 7:30 in the morning. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to go ahead and switch on over to the private stream for the Brigade members here in about 2 minutes. So if you are not a member of the Brigade, there's a link in the description. It costs $10 a month, and you get to watch the live streams during the full day. Otherwise, thank you all so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you here tomorrow morning. As far as where to leave you for today, it's starting to look to me like this market wants to continue to trend lower. Okay, so if this node that I pointed out, the bottom of which is at about 43.23, if that can't hold, expect further downside continuation. Levels to look for. So the first would be filling the gap left behind by Friday. So if we break through this node of volume here, expect to fill this gap down to 43.12. Okay, look for support there at that high from 7.1. If you don't find support there, look for repair. Or actually, the base of the spike up could be your next support, so that would be 43.04. Okay, and if the market continues to sell, just stay with the trend. Like I said, all it would take is one little pullback to cause the massive, huge pullback, to bring in the fear and the panic and everything else. So keep a close eye on that. Also, value now overlapping to lower, so that is neutral to bearish. One more signal to the downside. Okay. So yeah, this market's getting real bearish on me real quick. It's breaking that support, so expect further downside continuation.